Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant, for the month of November 2025. I hope you're well and happy birthday season to you. I'm using the Shadow and Light Tarot for you today, which is quite interesting. I have to say, in the meditation that I did before I started your reading, it all seemed pretty intense, and so intense that I actually went and pulled up the astrology for November, and looking at it across the course of November, I could kind of see why it was so intense. So maybe I'll just tell you, do the housekeeping first before we kind of launch straight into that. So if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is via the first link in the description box below. That will take you to Selfie. Alternatively, you can come and join my private community over on the Circle platform. It's called the Order of the Phoenix. And there you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. You can hang out with an extraordinary group of people, and you can come participate in the live classes that I run over there. If time zones or commitments don't allow, you can always catch up because everything is recorded, and there's a little space where all of those previous lectures and workshops have been held. So if you would like to do that, I would like to see you over there, but it's entirely up to you. Right, astrology for this month, intensity of this month, right? There are quite a few things happening. And I wouldn't say that they are necessarily totally all specifically focused on you, Scorpio, but you are carrying a lot of the weight this month. So, in order, we'll do it in order. We've got Venus moving into your sign on the 7th of November. So we've got it shifting from its exaltation into, is it exalted in Libra? Oh, I might have just made that up. No, I think it is. Into a place where Venus doesn't traditionally do so well, right? So that's bringing some intense feelings around values and relationships, and maybe even a little bit of power dynamics and whatnot, right? But it's a thing. Then on the very next day, you've got Uranus moving back into Taurus. Now, I know that that's not your sign, but it is your opposite sign. So there is a little bit of pressure there via, at least by house, via the opposition itself. And that retrograde in Taurus is actually going to last for quite a while. We're talking a few months now because, you know, it's a transpersonal planet, moves very slowly. So you should be aware of that. I mean, everybody has a house that is ruled by Taurus in their chart somewhere. So, you know, there's a little unfinished business. I'm idly flicking the cards, shuffling the cards while I'm talking to you, and there is the Death card that's just flipped to look at me. Additionally, then on the 9th, we have Mercury moving into retrograde. It's going to start stationing retrograde. It's going to start off in Sagittarius, but Scorpio, it is coming back into your sign, and that is going to happen on the 19th of November. And at the point where he retrogrades back into your sign, you're going to have the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Lilith all sitting there in your sign. Now, on top of that, we have this big water trine that's going on at the moment. We've got Jupiter in Cancer over here, Saturn, Neptune, North Node in Pisces over there, right? So it's a very watery month. I think that's probably the way to put it. And that's, you know, not to mention the ongoing square that's happening, at least by house, by your ruling planet Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So if this month feels like a lot, in all likelihood it's because it is, but I think that it can be a lot in ways that are not necessarily overwhelming and too much. It's just a month that seems to me, at least on the face of it, just looking at the astrology, that has the opportunity to gift great healing if you are willing to sink into that. So without any more ado, let's get some cards on the table. Could I have 3 cards for Scorpio, please? What's going on with Scorpio? Oh, well, we've got the Fool in your recent past. That's a nice card. How about a current energy for Scorpio, please? Oh, goodness. Okay, we've got the Knight of Swords in reverse. Interesting. And what about what's coming towards Scorpio? Let's fallen on the floor. Give me a second. Get that. Oh, it is the Hanged Man. There it is. Pisces energy. We've got the first and the last sign indicated here between the Fool and the Hanged Man, albeit that it's not the first and the last cards of the major arcana. It's certainly the signs. What do we have at the bottom here? We have the Three of Wands, and so there's something kind of contradictory about the energies this month, and I wonder if it's going to feel a little bit like a roller coaster, because there is this sense that where the Hanged Man is concerned, at least anyway, that there is no movement, there is no motion. The Hanged Man is very much about a stasis. And to some extent we might also view the Knight of Swords that way too. There he is, moving very fast. Represents the sign of Gemini. Interesting. Usually when a knight is reversed, we have a lack of movement. We have no movement forwards. When we've got the Hanged Man, we've got no movement. And yet we've got the Three of Wands indicating that what is actually happening is movement. So, you know, sometimes we can do our best work by not engaging with everything. What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes the best decision that we can make in a moment is to not engage, not do something about it, let things play out, see what they will do. Surrender to the movement of the universe rather than feeling like you need to control it, right? And to be fair, with the Fool being the very first card out there, that would lend a lot of credibility to it, because the Fool is an initiation step. It's the first step in a whole new cycle for you. Now, although we're in Scorpio season, and so the idea is kind of purging and releasing and letting go and all those kind of scorpionic things, you know, purging from very, very deep places. In fact, the Fool is adding a kind of lightness to the process of doing it, which I think is like the beginning of the end rather than the beginning of the beginning, if that makes sense. So let's get some clarifiers on the table and we'll take it from there. Tell me about the Fool, please. We have the Empress and we have the Ace of Wands. Tell me about the Knight of Swords in reverse. Ooh, we have the Sun. We have the Knight of Cups reversed. Okay, tell me about the Hanged Man, please. We have the Knight of Cups on his side. More Pisces energy there, interestingly enough. We also have the Nine of Pentacles and the King of Cups. Well, it wouldn't be a Scorpio reading unless you showed up somewhere, Scorpio, right? But we have the Ten of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now, traditionally, the Ten of Wands is associated with, at the very least, discomfort, but usually it's a state of burden. Now, if you recall right at the beginning, I said that I felt like the meditation at the beginning of your reading was incredibly intense, and it had a kind of roller coaster quality to it, for sure. But I do think that there is something about the mastery of self that is really coming to, maybe coming to fruition. I'm not sure that that was the word that I wanted to use, but I'm going to go with it for now. Because we see this position of the King of Cups arriving in November, indicating mastery of self, indicating mastery of emotions, but also indicating something that is strongly and uniquely of the identity of you. The funny thing is all the other stuff that's coming out with it here. Now, I think that a lot of what you have been experiencing of late has seemed to be jump-starting your energy, making you get on the train of initiation, right? Get on the, okay, I'm working towards something new. I'm just kind of taking in the extent of all of the cards as I'm seeing them here at the moment. We'll go through them individually in a moment, right? But in the best tradition of these things, it feels like there is a start and a stop and a start and a stop and a start and a stop, and somewhere through the middle of it all there is this this equilibrium that must be maintained, a kind of stoicism, if you will, actually, to the moment, because it would be very easy to surrender to peak frustration over the course of, well, where you have been versus, you know, where you'll end up by the end of November. But it's almost like that's the point. It's not about what's moving forward and what's not moving forwards. There's a very deep tug here, working on a very, very deep level, that is almost pulling you away from the rather material, earth-based problem solving of a situation, and putting it more in, can you tolerate it? Can you work with it when it's starting and stopping and starting and stopping? I don't think this is an energy that fixed signs particularly enjoy, because fixed signs are, after all, you know, maintaining the momentum of a situation. They're literally carrying the season here. And whilst, as part of the Scorpio experience, breakdown is a huge part of that, it's not like breakdown happens in fits and starts. You know, it's a very gradual decay, one that follows almost a consistent line. And yet that's not what the energy of this month is about. You know, we've got moving forwards, but then we've got things being burdensome, things being too heavy, but we also have this supreme relief of the Ten of Wands, which for me is the important part of this card, which is saying, you know, that which has been too heavy to carry, now we put down in favour of just holding one. It's like a month of catching up and equalising self, because things have been initiated, but things are also closing out. And whilst you're comfortable with those two things, they almost have to be held in balance over the course of this month, while things are rather chaotic and bouncing backwards and forwards and whatnot, right? So the theme of the month is less about what's going wrong and what's going right, but the kind of level of emotional equilibrium that you can maintain with it while these things are happening. And I have no doubt at all, Scorpio, that you'll boss this, because, you know, here you are as the very last card at the end of the month. You know, it is a task, a test passed. But interestingly, in doing it in a way that possibly you would not have done it before. So to some extent, I feel like what's happening this month, and I'm seeing it here in the Three of Wands to the Ten of Wands, is that the movement forward isn't of the nature of moving forward that you would like, that you hoped for, but it is actually skipping a huge number of steps to get to that place of completion, so that what's already being initiated over here can have its expression further down the line more swiftly than it would have done otherwise. I'm sorry if I sound a bit weird. I have been ill as fuck for the last week. I'm definitely feeling better. That's actually why the readings are late, but I am aware I still sound a little bit and I might have to pause the video if I have a coughing fit at some point, so just bear with me. And it's not cheating, it's not skipping steps. It's actually just doing this a little bit more efficiently than you would have done ordinarily. I think that's the way that I would like to put it. But at the same time, the opportunities for frustration are myriad, particularly around here. So let's start over here. We've got the Fool. Like I said right at the beginning, this is a state of initiation. It's a lightening of the load. It can speak to many things, actually, the Fool, because it is, well, the entire hero's journey is encapsulated in the energy of the Fool right there, right? It is everything and nothing simultaneously. And the rather contradictory position of those things being able to exist simultaneously. It's a card that can speak about taking a risk, taking a leap, you know, just kind of like throwing yourself into the void and seeing what happens. But it's also a card that can speak to a degree of foolishness, right, where we haven't foreseen the consequences of something. I don't feel like that applies to you, Scorpio, but it does feel like there's been a break in the clouds somewhere, right? And there's been a push of energy towards something recently. And, you know, that that could be symbolic. It could be actually that symbolic break in the clouds is, well, actually things are just rough right now. Things are tough. That's okay. I'm sure there are many previous instances that you can point to where such energy has been present before and you survived it. You're still here, changed and improved and whatnot. So we just orient ourselves towards this break in the clouds and start shifting towards that. I do appreciate that these cards are quite difficult to see on this background. I just want to hold that up so you can see what it is. The sun is often a really significant symbol within the Fool card. And there's something of like being able to see things in the negative about this deck. It's not that, because it's in black and white. And if it is in black and white, then what we've got here is almost like a black sun going on in a black sky. Which makes me feel like the positivity is coming from an internal place. It's not about external shifts, external changes that have improved situations somewhat. It's about something that's changed within you. And we have here the Empress and the Ace of Wands. I mean, a very flat way of interpreting that could be quite simply that a mother or mother figure has either created some sort of opportunity for you or given you the nudge that you needed to reorient yourself towards this more this lighter way of going. I don't think so, though. Because the Empress is all about creativity and abundance. She's often depicted as pregnant, right? She's the epitome of earthbound sort of physical, material femininity, right? Where we would look to see the High Priestess as the more etheric, kind of spiritual version of that. But it does feel then that whatever this is that you found here, it has been overseen by, right, birthed in by, possibly somebody else, right? The actions of somebody else, the care of somebody else, the investment of trust and faith in you, perhaps. Or it could be that you have been engaged in a process of reparenting yourself in order to cultivate that more childlike and creative energy that so many of us repress in older age. I want to pull out my Wild Unknown deck here. Because what we're seeing here is definitely a rebirth of some sort. Look at that. So when we see the energy of the Empress and the Emperor together, right, what we have is the imminent birth of the Fool, except we already know that he's here because he's coming out as your first card. So what we've got then are the creative masculine and feminine energies both showing up at the same time, saying there is a balance here, there is an alignment here that has created the correct environment for the Fool to emerge. Now, whether it's a little bit early, which is possible, when we certainly see that we've got the same card at the bottom of this deck here, Ten of Wands, where there are things that are still yet to be released in order to create that full expression of full energy, right? The full potential can be tapped into. I'm not sure, but I do feel like you have help, Scorpio, or you have had help of some description, and it may not be necessarily material assistance or resource assistance, but certainly there have been energies that have supported the initiation of something new for you, and I love that. I love that very much, whether it's in an internal state or whether it's something that you're actually actively working on outside of yourself. But when we get into your current energy, we have the Knight of Swords reversed. Now, the Knight of Swords representing Gemini and also then to an extent Mercury could well be speaking to the retrograde motion of that. The Knight of Swords in its upright is talking about the transmission of information. And that can happen in a number of different ways, right? It can happen in terms of the thoughts that are going on inside of your head, or it can speak to communication, right? So things that you are actively saying to other people, things that people are actively saying to you in some way or another. It can be the lens, the filter through which you put all new information that comes through. One of the defining things about Mercury retrograde is it's quite possible that people end up talking at cross purposes, right? Now, this isn't just because Mercury likes to stir the pot, although sometimes it can feel like that. More, it's about learning to refine our own thought processes and then the way that we express them outside of ourselves. So when the Knight of the Knight of Swords shows up in the upright, what we have is a state of information flowing around. Doesn't necessarily have to be true, but the information is flowing around, right? When he shows up in reverse, like I said before, Knights reversed indicate a lack of movement. Suddenly there is not information coming in where we expected it. Now, if part of what has prompted a new way of being over here has come by way of advice that you've been given by people, particular useful snippets of information that have been masculine in nature, feminine in nature, right, coming together to coalesce inside your head, then it could well be that those are stepping away now, because the Knight of Swords is saying there's not much more coming in. And to that extent, I would say then that you also have what you need, right? You have been given what you need to affect what you need to affect moving forwards. And I'm rather delighted to see the Sun showing up here too. Because whilst the Fool and the Sun both represent children, the Fool is that state of initiation, right? Pure innocence, pure faith, pure trust, because he simply does not have the experience to expect or foresee any problems that might come through. Alternatively, the expression of the Sun as childlike energy has already been through that underworld journey that we see happening in the major arcana cards, where we've got effectively a rebirth. The card before this one is the Moon. It's indicating that there is a long internal, possibly psychological and subconscious journey that we must go on. The Sun is the energy of emergence back into the world, reborn anew. So when we put these all together, it's like realizing that the energy of whatever information has been coming your way and how that has been subtly changing the way that you think, which would definitely be a Knight of Swords sort of energy, has been to get you to the point of initiation. And from here, we end up at the Sun. Again, it doesn't feel like skipped steps. It feels like this bit. These bits are the new experience for you. These are the ones where experience is necessary, right? It's very easy for you to go into the underworld and pull up all the dark stuff. It's much more difficult for you to re-emerge into the sunlight. And I feel like you're doing that, and you're doing it not because messages from the universe or agents of the universe who are bringing you messages, dropping advice into your head, telling you things that you need to know, not because they are there as a constant presence for you, but because you've opened up enough to hear what you needed to hear, to make the change that you needed to make, and now you're re-emerging out into the sunlight right now. Now, the interesting thing is that the Nine of Cups is reversed next to that, which looks like it's giving somewhat of a contrary kind of message, right? Because the Nine of Cups, for me, is all about how you manage your emotions, right? Just as the Nine of Swords is about how you manage your mind. It's about the internal experience, the very personal experience that you have with each of the elements and the expressions thereof. So the Nine of Cups in the upright can talk about contentment. It can talk about, having a sense of fulfillment from something. It can also talk about your highest hopes, goals, dreams and aspirations and all those sorts of things too, right? But the implication is that we've learned to manage the cups to the extent now that we can manage ourselves, and from this point on we have a lot to give to a community setting because we've worked it all out, right? Now here I feel like what's happening is there's a light of that sunlight is being cast on where you are right now and how you want to subtly change the direction that you're going in, because you realize that the path that you have been on for the longest time is not actually giving you what you want, right? The personal satisfaction, the personal sense of fulfillment is absent from this card here. We've got the Queen of Pentacles indicating that there is investment, right? New investment, and generally speaking in oneself. There is more work to do. Queen of Swords is at the bottom of the deck. That's Libra energy there, right? There is more work to do because the work is never done, right? And whatever major epiphanies you've been through recently, and I think they are probably solid major epiphanies, Scorpio, and I'm seeing these energies here, right? This it feels like it centers around your ability to trust yourself. Now there are certain ways in which a Scorpio trusting themselves is absolutely cast iron, right? For sure. But there is something about you that is new and vulnerable and emerging out into the world, that and you haven't necessarily had the experience of being this new kind of being long enough to be able to anticipate what the pitfalls are. Now, I don't think that this is a bad thing. I want to make that really, really clear. But I think what it is doing, what it has done at the moment, is shone a light on how much more you need to center your own personal creativity in whatever it is that you do next. Right, the Queen of Pentacles is always about the value of something. It is always about the investment, right? But principally, the Queen of Pentacles understands the value of investment in self. And then we have a card that is talking about hard work. Well, hard work. Important work, right? Work at which we become a master, right? Because, and what underpins all of that is that we understand that there is a value in the process of becoming a master of that thing, whatever that thing may be. And I think so much of this revolves around your creative expression, Scorpio. Now, one of my biggest bugbears about, I don't know, the way that people see you or have seen you in the past, Scorpio, is that they eat up in, like fucking Goldilocks eating porridge, the front that you have constructed, that you put up to keep you safe, right? They gobble that up and they think that that's what you are. And they will also judge you for that, right? Maybe the Goldilocks analogy is actually really, really spot on, right? Maybe they think you're too hot or they think you're too cold, and they don't understand the depth of the Scorpio experience. They do not understand, yes, the capacity for vengeance and cold behavior and all of these things that Scorpio you are absolutely capable of, right? That kind of strategic web that we've talked about in the past. We talked about this years ago, right? Where you're kind of trying to anticipate problems before they come in. And people think that that is because you're cold, you're strategic, you just get what you want and then you leave. What they don't understand is all the nuance of everything that's going on underneath, right? And where there has been, in many occasions, an inherent nobility in the way that you are trying to deal with the world, kind of looks like you're trying to manage people, or you're just rejecting them or whatever, but you're trying to very carefully express your extremely powerful being in a way that causes as little fucking upset as possible, right? People have never understood that about you, ever. And what I'm seeing here is there's this really advanced stage of integration that you are now performing, Scorpio, where the front, right, the what you put that out there into the world is actually, it's not who you are, but it's not the whole of who you are. And so to some extent that's being pulled into you into a state of integration. Shadow work, maybe, right? But you're starting to believe that you have something of value that is more than what you thought it was. And you're starting to see the value of what has felt like a curse to you, which is to feel so hard. And the outside applicability of that. Because there's something actually that has shifted in your head in terms of a service kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not mentality, it's a let's just say service orientation, right? Where you know that it's unlikely that anybody's ever going to get the fullest extent of you, right? They're just not going to get it, but that's okay, because that's not actually what they're supposed to do. It is for you to teach the depth. The depth that you hold is actually singularly available to you. It isn't, I think, available to any other sign. But that isn't to say that there aren't ways in which you can introduce, oversee, guide, teach the exploration of deeper levels of self. I feel like I'm kind of going off sideways here, but I really do feel like this is an important part of what's happening in your psyche, Scorpio. And the hugest part of it is you're not hiding. And this is so significant. It's kind of popping brain cells as I'm looking at it, right? It's not a curse, it's a gift. And you're not hiding that gift anymore. You're putting it out there. I feel like the Nine of Cups is inverted because this is not a comfortable position for you to hold. This is, in fact, the antithesis of everything that it is to be a Scorpio. What do you mean? Put my vulnerable self out there. But that's exactly what this is. Understand the value of my vulnerable self. Putting it out there. That's exactly what this is. And it feels risky, but it's also, I think, kind of non-negotiable. Not because I say so, Scorpio, but because you say so. It's almost like you found this level of authenticity that just, it refuses to be chained. It refuses to be hidden anymore. And rather than this being a problem, rather than this being something that is opening you up to the possibility of great wounding, which, let's be honest, it does. We can't really get away from that. There's the sense that you are so empowered, whatever it is, you can kind of roll with it now. And this is the important part of our great work, right? It doesn't make our problems smaller. It makes us bigger. So, the challenges increase for sure. But the things that used to hamstring us, paralyze us, have us running away in opposite directions like that, that's just a Tuesday now. And I'm feeling this lean really hard into this willingness to expose. And there's no fear of rejection here, Scorpio, although you're being tentative about it, although you're not terribly happy about it. There's such courage being demonstrated here because it's the right thing to do. And that's one of the other things that I think Scorpio gets a bad rap for, like, because people don't see you as you actually are. They have no idea how many times you have done painful things to you, and possibly to other people too, because you had enough foresight to see where this would go. And it's better to nip it in the bud now rather than to cause 10 times more pain later on. Like they've never seen that of you. And there it is, Scorpio, I think. There are very few people, maybe you're in a circle but not much more, who've ever realised quite how much you have engaged in self-sacrifice to protect. Protect yourself, yeah, quite likely, but actually to protect other people too. Now, I think the surrender to what the universe, God, source, creator, like whatever your terminology is for it, is asking of you, allowing yourself to be seen, allowing perhaps even your sacrifices to be seen. Starting to see that the biggest curse has always been the biggest gift. There's something canny fucking inspirational about you, Scorpio. There really is. You can't... This is the essence of these cards here, right? You can't control how people receive you. And I think you've put a lot of effort into that in the past, right? In the cultivation of the front, in the stepping away from a situation, even if it caused you great pain, to protect, right? To do the right fucking thing, to have integrity, and to kind of have to shoulder the burden of people not being able to see your integrity as it was and where it's been demonstrated, right? And just sort of taking that on the chin. The surrender to the energies of this month, the surrender to the need for you to show yourself as you actually are, and not be chasing anything, not be looking for anything, not even acceptance actually, but just to stand in a particular version of the truth that you have. Where your integrity is really starting to show itself to those who are capable of seeing it. Like I said, it's a month where it looks like possibly there isn't a lot happening on the face of it. But this huge shift underneath is enormous. And it's closing out everything that it needs to in order for this new, fresh version of you to step tentatively out into the light in a very vulnerable state and say, hello, here I am. Now, whether that's liked by people or not, like I said, that's not for you to control. It's not something you can control. And I don't think that you feel vulnerable for very long, because there is a power in the authentic expression of Scorpio that is really starting to bed in by the end of November. Now, you know, I think about the fact that we're in a universal year 9. I think about the fact that, you know, we've got a lot of stuff at the end of the zodiac hanging out in Pisces, and next year everything moves into air and fire, right? The initiation, the start, very, very strong. And I feel like there are many people who are unprepared for exactly what that will mean. I think none of us really understand what it will mean. It's only something that will make sense in retrospect. But as we rapidly approach the end of 2025, like, there is nothing more important than you standing in your mastery, Scorpio, and actually allowing it to be seen. I think that this is a month that is going to be putting people in your way rather than you finding them, right? There's something very magnetic about what you're about. And it's pulling people in, and people are looking for the Scorpio perspective on matters. Now, you see the King of Cups here. I mean, like, all you really need to do is sit on your throne and be authentic, independent, solid, right? And just allow people to come to you, because this slight mismatch between the beginnings and the endings that we've got going on, it feels like November is the sorting month, and you don't have to put the energy into the endings. You can just let those do what they're going to do. And the only thing that is really important for you is to just exist in a way that can be seen, but bringing everything that is deep and putting it just there, right? Won't be well received by everyone, but that's their problem, not yours. This is astonishing bravery, Scorpio. I'm fucking here for this shit all day long. This is outstanding. It's intense, absolutely intense as fuck, but this transition is not going to take very long, right? It's not... you are not going to be sat out there feeling vulnerable for the next 6 months. This is what you have mastered, and it's time for you to own it now, right? To claim it, own it, wear it, sit on your throne. Here I am. And the people who want a part of that, the people who are looking for wisdom, who are looking for different perspectives, different ways to see things, they'll come find you. Everybody else, not important. Wow, this is very interesting. Right, I am going over to the extended now. I would love it if you would join me over there. If you feel like it, you can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your thing, that's absolutely fine. But this is huge, Scorpio. This is absolutely fucking massive, and I'm here for it all day long. Oh shit, this time. Okay, right, I'm gonna go. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.